We're here at Microsoft. So thank you guys very much for the Microsoft folks for hosting us here tonight. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for Microsoft. One of the things that is cool that we have tonight is Heather Shapiro from Microsoft is going to talk about some of the stuff that they're working on. Their budget for bots is a little bit bigger than ours, so it's probably better, right? So we're going to learn about the Microsoft bot and some of the other latest technologies. So Heather, why don't you come up and talk about what you guys are doing here at Microsoft?
Hey everyone. While this gets set up, my name is Heather Shapiro. I'm a technical evangelist here at Microsoft. We're really happy to host you here today. For me, what I do here at Microsoft, I'm a developer, but I don't work on a product team. So I talk to students, startups, developers in the community, trying to get them engaged in technology, teaching them how to use technology, workshops, conference talks, etc. So let's just do this. Can't see me. Cool. So like Joe says, some of the things that we're working on at Microsoft now are bots. So we do have like a Microsoft bot framework. If you haven't looked at that before, it's a really easy tool that you can use to create bots. They connect to different channels such as, use this instead. They connect to different channels such as like Skype, Facebook, Node. You can do all different things. So there's a Node and C# SDK, and you don't have to rewrite your code ever. So you just have to click a button that says like deploy to Facebook, deploy to Skype, Microsoft Teams, things like that. So with the bot framework, right now, conversation as a platform is really huge. So if you're a developer or even own a business, it's really big right now because it takes away like the cognitive load from the users. It's a new business opportunity because everyone's already using these social media platforms. So it's a new opportunity to reach your customers. You can use bots in like tons of different scenarios. So you can use them for, I'll show some examples, but like Skyscanner. So if you want to look to see what's the cheapest flight, you can just message the bot and talk to them there. Or you can, if you have an Azure account, you can turn off your VM through the Azure bot. So there's tons of different scenarios that you can use for bots. And so currently, most people are just using like websites and apps, but with bots, it's like it's a new way of like reaching those customers. So you can reach them anywhere on any platform, any device. So you can, like I said, like Facebook, Skype, Twilio, all different mediums. So you can actually reach people, whichever is like the best use case for your audience. And there's different ways that you can make it smarter. So you can add natural language processing in. You can add like image recognition, things like that through cognitive services. So you can add all different like APIs that we have called Microsoft Cognitive Services, like vision, speech, language. So if you want to do natural language processing, so anytime someone says something similar to, say, a medical term, you know what the intent they're looking for is. So it's pretty easy to get started. You just need a Microsoft account, and you can go to look up Microsoft Cognitive Services. And I'll show a quick demo. I don't want to take too much time. Okay. So one example of a bot, this one's using Telegram. It's also on Skype and Facebook. We have this bot called Project Murphy, and it answers what-if questions. So if I say, like, I might have to upload my picture again. What if I were a Disney princess? Okay, so I have to upload a picture. I did it more than 10 minutes ago, so they're not saving it. Cool. And so what it's doing is it's looking for the facial features that I have, and then it gives a picture of what it thinks I could look like. So here I am as a Disney princess. So it's using those cognitive services, computer vision APIs to detect where my face is, to detect where the faces are in these Bing image search, and to transplant my face onto them. So just one example of something you could do with bots. But it's really, like Joe was saying, it's really popular right now. So if you're looking to get into something new, this is a great realm to go into. But I'll pass it back. But thank you.
What if I were a Disney princess, what would that look like?
We could try.
Could you see that old hairy man up there, princess with the? Yeah. So anyway, we do have a couple of empty seats in the front, so I know it's cool to sit in the back on the bench there, but if you get tired, come towards the front. I know it's nerve-wracking sitting in the front of the room, but definitely make your way up there because you will get tired. What I'd like to do is call our panelists to the front of the room. If you guys can come and grab a seat up on the stage here. And I would like to introduce the CEO of Crowded, Howard Schwartz.
My name is Howie Schwartz. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Crowded. We're thrilled to be here, and we wanted to again thank Microsoft for hosting us. This is going to be just a great night. This is our 4th or 5th meetup that we've done, and I always start off with the same bad joke, which is, the room's crowded, which is why we named the company that. Again, it's wonderful that everyone's here. We have a great panel tonight that I'm going to ask to introduce themselves in a second, but I have to set a timer because apparently I was told my last panel was too long. So I'm going to try to fix that this evening to make sure that everyone has enough networking time. Great, so what we're going to do is we're going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. Let's start with Darcy, and we're going to go all the way down. So your name, your title, what company you work with, and one fun fact about you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Darcy Bagnasco. I work here at Microsoft, and I lead recruiting for our New York enterprise divisions. I've been with Microsoft about 2 years. Fantastic company, and super excited to be here with you tonight. Fun fact. Went parasailing once, and the boat didn't move. So didn't have the experience of actually flying over Aruba with my family and I think a boy that I was trying to impress at the time. So kind of just dangled from the air and experienced parasailing in a very different manner than actual flying sensation. Leave it at that. Have a great time tonight.
And I didn't warn anyone about these questions either. So.
I was going to say a fun fact or disappointing fact. Huh?
Either one.
So Tyler Kimball, Solution Manager for the Global HR Operations at Microsoft. My role is actually to architect and revamp our entire recruiting software process. So I'm looking forward to some of the questions about the candidate experience and what Microsoft is doing to improve that. Fun fact for me would be that in November, I will be becoming a dad for the first time.
Hi, my name's Charlie Kyneth. I'm the tech recruiting lead at Intersection. I've been doing recruiting here. I think it'll be my 10th year recruiting in the startup world come September. So I'm pretty getting old, And a fun fact about me was one time I was actually attacked by a shark. Oh.
Wait, how big was the shark? Was it like little shark?
I don't know. It was big enough to scare the you-know-what out of me, so big enough.
Hi, my name is Kayla Diamidi. I am a tech recruiter at Button, which is a mobile technology company. I recently joined the team there, was formerly at another startup called Grovo, which is in the e-learning space. A fun fact about me, I lived in West Africa for a period of time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aviva Druyan. I'm head of talent acquisition at LearnVest, personal financial planning. We were acquired about 2 years ago by Northwestern Mutual, which is one of the largest life insurance companies in the United States. Actually working right now on seeing how we can combine both financial planning and life insurance. And bring the millennials into the life insurance world because, until you have kids, you don't think about life insurance. Fun fact about me, I'm actually a proud mom of an 11 times U.S. national champion and world finalist in ballroom dancing. So Dancing with the Stars stuff, that's the deal.
Awesome, thank you. So the first time I asked this was, I guess, 2 meetups ago, and we were at this concert hall. It was a classical music hall, and one of the recruiters on the panelists said that she was a trained professional opera singer, and we had her sing a note, and it was just amazing with the acoustics.
I am a trained dancer. I'm not dancing.
That's next. It depends on how much beer we have left at the end of the evening, right? Great. So one of the main things that we're trying to do at Crowded, and the reason why we do these meetups, is that we believe that even though everything that we do is happening in Crowded on your mobile device or through a chatbot, a conversational interface, what we realized is that there was a lot to gain and a lot of value that we could provide to the community by bringing people together in the physical world, which is kind of a different thing and a little odd these days. And this is also immensely helpful for us because the feedback that we get from our employers on the panels and the employers who attend and the candidates, all of you guys who come about your profiles and the type of trends that you're seeing really directs, our vision. So, I like to say that we gain as much from this meetup series as hopefully each of you will tonight. So one of the trends that we see is the concept of a disconnect between what the different levels of software developers would be. So one of the classic things that we hear, and raise your hand if you face this, where there's an entry level or a junior level developer position, and you read down it and it requires 10 years plus of experience. Raise your hand if you've experienced that. So that's, well over 3/4 of the room. So, it's hard in such a fragmented, industry to kind of standardize this, but we found that one of the ways that we can help the community at large is trying to get, sort of a better understanding of that, and that when we're doing matching, when an employer posts a job in Crowded, when we're doing matching and thinking about job recommendations and things like that, thinking about understanding the experience level is really important. So you may have all the right skills, but the experience level is really important. So I'd love to go down the panel. We're going to start with Darcy. So Darcy and Tyler are going to tag team the event for us tonight. So I may direct some questions to one or the other of you, but feel free again to jump in, Tyler or Darcy, if you'd like to add something to your colleagues. We're going to go straight down the panel to Aviva. Thank you. So your definition of what a junior developer is, number of years of experience, things like that.
It's always an interesting question when you look at a job description and it quantifies the years of experience in terms of a desired expectation. I think that there's value in that, in seeing kind of how many years experience, but more importantly, not how many quantitatively, what have you done in those years of experience? Can you articulate on an interview what you actually were working on and what kind of business solution did that offer? That's going to be key to kind of countermand. So my guidance on that topic is if you're falling a little short in terms of the years of experience, work around it and have supported examples of what you've done in even that shorter amount of time, whether that was what are you working on in college, or if you are working, what have you worked on to support that business, to kind of work around the quantitative ask. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, Tyler, it's up to you. Yeah, it's up to you for any of these. You could add to it. You could skip to the next question. It's totally up to you. It's great that we have two members from Microsoft.
I think Darcy hit the nail on the head there. One thing I would give as far as advice goes to the junior developers in the room is if you see what you think is an entry-level position based off title, but the job description doesn't match up with the user experience, just make sure that your experience as far as knowledge goes matches up to what the role is looking for. So don't shy away from applying just because you don't have the years as far as a job experience on your resume. If you have the skill set they're looking for, meaning if it's looking for a cloud engineer and you have great cloud experience and you took a lot of classes on that, don't shy away from that. It's still a junior role. They're either looking for someone with the skill set that will balance out for the years of experience actually on your resume. Hopefully that's something helpful.
Thank you. Charlie?
Yeah. I think when I hear junior, developer, junior engineer, I usually think in that like 0 to maybe 2.5, 3 years type experience. That's kind of what first thing that comes to my mind. But it's also, what I can't stress enough is, going out there and, having a profile or a portfolio or some type of I guess, mark in, GitHub or Bitbucket, that could kind of counterbalance your years of experience with what you've actually built and done before. It kills me every time I look at an engineer, like a junior engineer's profile, right? Their LinkedIn, or their GitHub or their Bitbucket, and you see like all these commits, and then there's like a 6-month gap, and now they're like interviewing for a job. Like, you should keep up to date and make sure that you're doing those commits or projects along the whole spectrum, because that's stuff that like recruiters look at. But for me, I think my definition of a junior engineer is someone that's not fully self-supportive, right? Someone that's still going to need to ask a question, or not doing pull requests or anything like that, but being able to, I guess, work with the team and absorb the knowledge from others. Anybody who's kind of above that, like, hey, I'm super autonomous, I could do my own stuff. I've been, I have 2 years of experience, but I've been coding since I'm 15 years old. That might be something where you're probably above that role. So,
Great. Caleb.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off, what Darcy and Charlie both said, it's I think demonstrating what you've done in a portfolio is really something that, like, for me, makes it really easy when I'm looking at applications and profiles. And usually, like, a company has done leveling for what each level means. And to Charlie's point, like, a junior developer is someone who is not afraid to ask questions, who's looking for a mentor, who, is not applying for a job to go in and have ownership. They're going into because they're eager to learn and they think that they have the skill set to do the job. And I think to Darcy's point too, like it may not be actual tangible years, but it's what you've done and the quality of that work. So I think being able to highlight that as clearly as you can to the recruiter, and don't be afraid to like send a recruiter like a LinkedIn message. Like, that's the best way to get my attention. And if you have your portfolio right then and there, like, that makes my job really easy.
Being the last one, I'm done.
So even the talking about leveling, the number of years of experience, like your sort of quick definition for what a junior developer role would be if you posted a job for junior web developer.
So just kind of, if you guys ever get an interview with a job description that says junior and then on the bottom 10 plus years of experience, don't be afraid to call out. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like, seriously, don't be afraid to call out, because it probably most likely is an oversight. And it's an oversight that limits actually the applicants and people applying for the job, et cetera, et cetera. I actually love when people come in, and I try to go in and interview people, whether they're junior or senior, it doesn't matter, and kind of ask them, how is the process from A to Z? Don't be afraid, right? And again, it's really what you've done and not the years that you have. Because you might have had an amazing internship that people would work 3, 4, 5 years and never have done that you've done throughout the summer.
Great. So thank you. So yeah, I think again that would be helpful for our community as a whole. So we start to understand kind of that leveling that's happening. So thank you. That was very, very insightful. So my next question is, and we're seeing this just increase. I'd say quarter over quarter over the past 2 years. Is around boot camps. So how many people in the room attended or graduated or is currently attending a coding related boot camp? Raise your hand, nice and proud. So I never get this right. What is it? 20% or so? Interesting. Less than the last few meetups, which felt like it was a little bit more like 40, 50%. So we're gonna have to look at if that's seasonal around when the courses are happening, or see if that's trending downward through the summer. So I'll leave this open to anyone on the panel. If your company does hire from boot camps, I'd love to hear a little bit about that experience, and if you're evaluating those candidates in maybe a different way versus a candidate with a traditional CS degree.
So we actually have quite a few graduates of the boot camps. We also were recently featured on Fox News, I think, because we actually work with the mayor's office on their tech initiative, and we have quite a few people from that as well. So again, it's an awesome opportunity. We actually do open our year-round internships to graduates of boot camp. The summer internships we don't open to the bootcamp graduates, but the year-round internships we do. So that's also an awesome opportunity for you guys to get your foot in the door.
Great. Any other comments on hiring from boot camps?
Yeah, I think, so I'd say out of the last few hires that we made, we actually hired 2 people out of boot camps. I'd say the most important thing that, if you are in a boot camp, one of my personal, I guess, stigmas is, hey, at a boot camp, you learn how to fly the plane, but you don't learn how the engine works, right? So I think the most important piece of that is if you are at a boot camp, also just make sure you're supplementing that with maybe some core Comm Sci 101 classes, all right? You learn a lot and you'll put a lot of time and effort into the boot camp, and that's what it's all about, right? Like Michael Jordan wasn't an awesome free throw shooter because he didn't practice all the time. So being able to work in those group settings, get that kind of production group experience is super important. But I would say, also know some of the basics as well that you might have to, either self-study or Udemy or something like that. But just supplement your learning at the boot camp with some common core subjects.
Great. Any maybe negatives or downsides from boot camp candidates? It's okay for both sides, the positive and negative.
I mean, I think it just depends on the organization that you're applying to. So make sure that when you're targeting coming out of a boot camp, what your job search is going to look like look at the staging of a company. So that really can alter whether or not a company is going to be open to hiring a full-time boot camp graduate. I know that Button is a relatively young company. It's pretty small right now. So we're more than open to welcoming boot camp internships, and we've extended those internships, into some part-time jobs. But when we are targeted more towards senior roles, it might not be the perfect fit. So I think that when you're looking at your search, look at the size of the company and look at some of the scopes of the jobs and what that leveling is, going back to your initial point about the leveling and what they're looking for.
Great, thank you. So we have 3 open seats because our panelists came up. So anyone from right there, if you guys are close against the wall, you can grab those seats. Gotta hurry, someone else is gonna take them. You don't wanna let an open seat just sit there vacant. So Tyler, I'd love to hear a little bit about the candidate experience from Microsoft's perspective, and maybe some of what you've seen from the bad side of it that needs improvement, and some of your personal experience and what you're doing to improve the candidate experience. And if there's any comments you have on sort of the mobile candidate experience, I personally would love to hear that part, because we think about our world as mobile and sort of chat interfaces.
Sure. So I'll try to answer the question both from recruiting software standpoint. That's really where my background is, and also what Microsoft is doing. So today, Microsoft recruits 86 different ways across the globe, whether that's due to process, systems in place, and programs as well. So that's a current state today. We are addressing that for tomorrow. So our goal is to be a one Microsoft, really truly on one global ATS, one system, improving that one candidate experience as well. I think the one thing you'll see is, as far as the bad candidate experiences, is when you go through and apply and there's disconnects between different job types, whether it's multiple steps. The one thing we're really trying to focus on, and I would recommend to any of my fellow panelists and any other companies with a recruiting software role, is that you really want to make sure this candidate experience is between 2 to 5 minutes. So keeping mobile in mind, I always say that after that 5-minute mark, that candidate drop-off rate really spikes. Because I'm sure all you in this room have had that pain point where once you start applying to a job, if you hit that 5-minute mark, there's 8 steps left to go, you're going to drop off, especially if it's not mobile friendly on your mobile device. So we have a really big initiative to really have a really great candidate experience going forward to reduce that black hole scenario. So you're going to be able to go through on a mobile device and easily apply to any of our jobs globally. And also what we're doing is building out what we're calling our action center. So really communicating to the candidate to keep you informed, whether it's good news or bad news on the position you're applying for, to keep you up to date throughout the recruiting stages, to keep you informed of what stage you're at, what stage is next, helpful tips going forward, along with communications to the mobile device.
Great. And on the candidate black hole, which is what we call it in the industry, raise your hand if you've applied for a few jobs and you never hear back, you're in limbo? Raise your hand. I once had a job. I had to start companies years ago because no one would hire me. It was always the black hole, so that's why I've been starting companies for 20 years. But so yeah, I think that's very important. I think that's one of the things that we encourage, also in the Crowded platform is those engagement sessions to say, this isn't a fit, or in the middle of a conversation after several engagements back and forth, and saying, I don't think you're a fit for this position. Maybe there's something else. I think it's really important to close the loop. So it's great to hear kind of your initiatives around that side. So we're going to start down with Aviva, and we're going to come this way. I'd love to hear about your recruitment process, and I know it could be a long conversation, so we'll try to condense it down into maybe even to include some of the timing and some of the steps. So someone starts and they fill out an application online. What's next? Is there a phone screen, in person? Sort of talk us through how someone gets hired in your firm, and maybe some timing in there too for each step.
So ultimately, the rule of thumb is each application has to be reviewed within 24 hours of it hitting the recruiter's box or the ATS system, right? Within then, absolutely everyone, regardless of the fact whether we've spoken to them or they just applied, will receive some sort of a notice, whether it's a rejection, sorry, not right now, or a follow-up. First step would be a phone screen with the member of the talent acquisition team. If that goes well, probably within the next 24 hours, again, schedules permitting, a tech phone screen. If that goes well, probably within next 24 max to 48 hours, we will schedule the in-house. For the most part, it's one in-house unless there's some scheduling conflicts, but we try to do it one in-house. So ultimately, the entire process should take about a week. Again, schedules permitted, 2 weeks max. The response within 24 hours after the in-house interview, you should have a response, whether it's a yay or it's an A. Again, this market is crazy, absolutely crazy. And I think I've learned a long time ago, you snooze, you lose, especially with experienced tech candidates. Guys, practice, work. On average, any tech candidate has about 3 to 5 offers on the table at the same time if they're looking. So it's your market.
Great. We'll come straight down the panel. Kyla, please.
Yeah, I think speed is definitely the name of the game, but I think also being very thoughtful in your process is also really important. So we try to make an effort within the first 48 or 24 to 48 hours to get back to every candidate who applies, and whether that's moving forward or currently passing. We then move forward with a more just an overview of the company, getting to know the candidate, understanding, what you want to do, what you're looking for. Because hiring is really a two-way street, right? You want to make sure that the candidate is going to be set up for success, and the company want to make sure that it's a good fit for them as well. So once we do sort of that initial screen, and that's usually with me or another member of the recruiting team, we move on to then a technical phone screen. And then it's a bit more of a technical deep dive with someone like that, usually the hiring manager for that role. Upon that call, we move forward with a take-home challenge. So for all of our business roles and for our technical roles, we do a take-home. It's not supposed to take you, days. It's supposed to take you, maybe 2 to 3 hours at most. And this is actually what sets the whole premise of your on-site. So you bring that take-home to your on-site, and that really is what starts off the conversation for your first in-person meeting. We like you to meet with the whole team in one day, you schedule permitting, of course. And so you meet with a whole panel of cross-functional individuals that you would be potentially working with. To really get a holistic view of would I want to work with these people, and could I see myself working with these people? Upon our on-site visit, we hire by committee. So we have a hiring council after we interview the person, and we get together as a hiring team and we discuss the feedback for the candidate. So this really helps prevent bias from our hiring managers, pushing someone down the funnel that, they may be super keen on trying to hire. It really keeps everyone aligned on what we're looking for in this role and what, the strengths of the candidate were and where we could really see them excelling. And then we move to reference checks beyond hiring council, and then we move forward with an offer. So our process might be a little bit longer, but I'd like to think it's very, very thoughtful and very thorough.
It's not
Great.
It's not longer. I just missed parts of it. I just kind of sped through it.
Yeah, our process over at Intersection is very similar to Kayla's in terms of like general process, call with somebody from talent acquisition, second to follow up, more technical type phone screen. If that goes well, we'll follow up with a take-home assignment where when you come in, you'll probably meet with anywhere between, I'd say, 3 to 5 people. All right, go over some of that. What we do is we try to break it up. So like one's more of like kind of a cultural interview, one's a cross-functional interview with someone that's not on your team directly, but you'll work with them. And then 2 or 3 engineers, possibly followed up by a manager. If we could get it done in one day, we always try to do that because, speed is great, but, you also want to make sure you're accurate as well. One of the cooler things I think that we've brought into the process is we do like a pre and post interview huddle, because I'm sure you've all had that experience of, someone running to an interview to see you and they're like reading your resume outside the door. Like try not to have that happen because it does all come back to candidate experience in the end. So during a pre-interview huddle, we'll actually, talk a little bit more in a small huddle group, almost like a stand-up, and say, hey, this is the candidate. This is why they're here. This is the interview. This is why we're interviewing them. Here's the breakdown of the different parts which each group is going to be assessing for. And then after the interview is done, we try to do it within. If it's an end of day, we'll do it the next morning. If it's the beginning of the day, we'll do it before we leave. Get just a post-interview huddle. I'll collect all the feedback in our system, and then everybody kind of closes their eyes, and I'll say, all right, like show of hands. We give kind of like thumbs up, thumbs down in the middle, and then we could actually I guess voice your opinion, and you could almost help to convince people. Maybe I was but okay, you made some valid points. It's kind of bringing me back up to let's move forward. A little bit more of a democratic way, but I think it's effective and quick and gets the job done.
Thank you. Darcy, a little bit about Microsoft process?
Jump in too.
Oh, yeah, please.
It's cool if you want to skip me, but I'm happy to jump in. It's one question I can't answer.
Please.
The one thing I'll say is from a global standpoint as well, what you're hearing throughout the other panel members is kind of key stages, right? You apply, your resume is reviewed, usually by a recruiting team. From there, you're moved on to a hiring manager to usually have another phone call or screen as well, and then a technical screen. With Microsoft, we have a built-in house tool for coding challenge. And then from there, you're brought usually for a face-to-face or a Skype call. And just like Charlie mentioned, we have different personas going through it, meaning the person you're talking to may be asking you specific questions. So don't just be ready to answer coding questions or what your challenge was at that moment. There's going to be certain questions thrown at you, and make sure you're a culture fit, your certain challenges that come up from those stages, and then down to the checks as well.
Great, thank you.
So
Darcy.
absolutely piggybacking right on top of everything that Kayla, Charlie, and Tyler said in terms of our structure being very similar at Microsoft in terms of process. Just by show of hands, has everybody in the room heard the term sourcer? Anybody? Okay, and then recruiter. So I just wanted to jump in and add that, because everything that my colleagues said on the panel is very similar to how we structure our interview process here at Microsoft. The one differential I'll mention is that we have global opportunities at Microsoft. Our volume is just huge. So we actually have a partnership function within our global talent acquisition world. So the sourcers are really the folks that are out in the field. Many of our sourcers work from home. Some of them might be working in their PJs, and they're all over LinkedIn, and they're finding great talent like yourselves out in the marketplace. And they're going to reach out to you. So many of you probably gotten LinkedIn emails or at meetups like this where a sourcer will come over to you and create a conversation, create a relationship. From there, if there's mutual interest and they'll ask you some screening questions, our process is that sourcer will then bring you as a strong candidate over to me on the recruitment side and my recruitment team. And we'll take kind of that second half of the recruit and lead you through the interview process, lead you through on-site interviews. To Charlie and Tyler's point, whiteboarding sessions is a big part of our interview day. We also, like Kayla, try to do it all in one day to use your time correctly, and that will involve meeting with different managers who will have different assignments in terms of what they're assessing. We'll give you a private conference room, let you take some breaks, let you check email, we'll give you lunch, because I know food is super important, especially in the techie world, right? We want to keep everybody nice and nourished so you guys can create all the awesome things that you do. We do have a panel style interview as well. If you're interviewing for a sales role or a technical seller, which I can get into a little bit more later, that would involve what we do, kind of a mock presentation, where we'll put you in a conference room with the whiteboard and let you just go to town and code and show us what you can do. So all of that is kind of integrated. The one thing I wanted to mention is that right alongside of what we do fundamentally, to Charlie's point, we are asking for your feedback. How is your experience going with us? What can we be doing better? Talk comparatively in terms of what else you're interviewing for in the marketplace in terms of that process. We want to hear from you. We want to understand the experience. And the last part I'll mention that Microsoft is really focused on in terms of process is events like this. Satya Nadella feels very strongly about socializing our interview process as much as possible. So we have something called a Social 2.0 strategy that some of you may have heard about or can read about online. We do both small, mid, and large-scale events at different venues globally, where we'll invite you to just come network, food, drinks, learn about Microsoft, create those relationships with those hiring managers directly who attend those events. So you have a super opportunity to get right in there and kind of bypass my function a little bit and create those relationships, which certainly I know is probably sounding pretty appetizing at times to bypass the recruiter function. So I know that's a lot. Obviously, we have a lot going on at Microsoft in terms of our volume, but the most important thing for us is candidate experience and knowing that we're offering you a positive one.
We never try to bypass the recruiter function.
Never.
Not a Crowded. Awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of just quick answers. We're going to run down the panel, and I have a few different questions that's going to be at each stage. So Joe's giving me is that 4 or 5 minutes? Without my glasses, I can't see. All right, thank you for the 5 minutes. I can't see the difference. All right, so we're gonna go really, really quickly. So we're gonna start at the application step. And let's start with Darcy, and then we're gonna go straight down. So give me one thing that a candidate can avoid in an application that immediately is just gonna not get them to progress to the next step. Give me like one, I know there's a million things. Give me one example that everyone can go home and when they apply for a job tonight, not do that one thing. We're going to go straight down the panel really quick.
Sure. I'm going to take it back to my first recommendation on that application. Don't not offer what you've been working on. What's exciting? What have you been projecting? What is going on that you're working on? What have you offered value in that first paragraph? And it doesn't have to be literature. I actually prefer them to be short, to be honest. Just a couple of bullets about what you're working on. Don't have it be, I'm a team player, please hire me. I'm the best person you'll ever hire. That's not going to do it. We have to have some nitty-gritty. Talk like yourself. What's cool, what's creative, what are you working on? And that will capture the eye of the resume reviewer.
Great. Tyler, we're going to go straight down.
Sure. So what I would say is don't become what I like to call the serial candidate. Don't apply to every job on the website. One thing the recruiter is going to do is look at other jobs you applied to. If you applied to 1,500 different jobs in all different departments, they're going to know that you're not really interested in a certain focus and reject you.
Yeah, so good. That's a great point. So one of the candidates in the room tonight, I won't point out who, applied yesterday for 46 jobs on Crowded.
That's a serial candidate.
46 jobs. I saw the data this morning. I thought it was actually a bug, but it was not. I saw all 46 applications.
Unbelievable. I'd say double check your application. Like the worst thing I could do is like start reading a cover letter and it's not even addressed to our company. It's somebody else because So yeah, maybe have a standardized like second and third paragraph, but maybe make your first paragraph really customizable to the job.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Like, make sure your cover letter, if you're going to write one, is addressed to the right person, because you'd be surprised by how many times I get other companies' cover letters. I think typos and just clarity in your work. Like when there's a lot of graphics going on and it's confusing to just see what your experience is. Sometimes you get lost in applications. So for me, it's really just clarity. Like, and back to your point, like simple bullet points. I don't need like a whole saga. I just need to understand like the key takeaways that get to a granular level of what you actually did.
All of that plus don't try to stand out with weird font and colors and graphics and stuff. Because again, as recruiters, this is what we do. We look at resumes all day long. And trust me, how many times I've had my team come over to my computer, or my team has called me to my computer and be like, oh my God, look at this, right? And our eyes simply hurt from like the purples, the blues, and the backgrounds and weird font when I kind of go like, is that a G? Yeah. Right? So just simple. Be simple. You're not graphic artists. You're not designers. It's acceptable. But for technology guys, simple.
All right, so we're going to continue with Aviva, and we're going to just do one quick funny example. So give us something crazy that happened on a screening phone call that you suggest someone never does. So they got through the application, and now they're on a call with you, and something was said or something happened, and you're like, oh my God, and then, that no one in the room should do. Or if you don't have a funny example, it could be...
No, I do. I actually do.
We all do.
I think I've been fortunate that I haven't had that much of, but then, so I was screening someone and I'm going through their resume, and because I wasn't supposed to screen the person. Someone threw it my way because they were held up on something else. So I'm screening the person and I'm like, so let's talk about your last employer, this employer, this employer. And the person goes to me, why don't you open the website and look at the stuff I've done? We're an open space, as most startups are. XXX rated thing comes up on my huge Mac screen, and I'm sitting there, I'm going like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Thank God I have IT, and the guys are completely crazy right behind me, and they kind of go like, oh my, what are you looking at the office? And I'm like, I'm not HR, I'm TA, leave me alone, I'm fine. So that was like, again, listen, people work on different things. Just don't ask anyone to open anything. If they need to, they will do it themselves and look at your work.
Cool. Let's go right down the panel.
Yeah, I had a candidate just yesterday who applied inbound and told me at the end of the call that they actually weren't interested in the job. This is a job that they had applied for. We had multiple correspondences back and forth. So if, time is valuable for both you and me. So I think if you're going to get on a call with someone and I'm going to go in to telling you, passionately about what we do and selling you this opportunity, make sure you want the job. And if you don't, then don't take the call, because it's really frustrating, but it's also well, why are we even talking about this in the first place? So just look at the job description before you get on a call.
I think I've had a couple of crazy ones, but I think the best, instead of a crazy thing, I think it's just for you guys as candidates, just make sure you do your prep work, okay? And put a little bit of time in beforehand, know a couple products, know what it's about. Because the worst thing I could do is, say, hey, what do you know about us? And it's well, I don't know. I just applied because I'm looking for a job. Know a little bit about the company, maybe some of the history, what it's used for, how to use it. I think that would just be super helpful for you guys out there as you interview.
I'll try to be quick so that you're short on time. My statement would be is be accurate on your resumes and be ready to talk to it. When I was talking to somebody as far as what they coded or project, I asked them about that, what language they coded in, and they just couldn't speak to it. Shortly after that, you could tell the conversation was ended on the interview. So make sure whatever you put on your resume, you can accurately speak to it on that phone screen.
I'm going to go Charlie's way as well, as opposed to what was crazy. Self-awareness and choices of wording, particularly on interviews, is key. Just listening to the other person, but thinking before you respond, and just using appropriate choices of words. Leave profanity outside of an interview, and just watch the casual wording.
Awesome. So before we let our panelists go, actually, you know what? Before that, what we're going to do is we're going to ask each of our panelists to talk about maybe an open role that they have at their company. And then we'll have any other employers in the room who have spoken to Jamie come on up, and Mark will introduce them, and then we're going to have lots of networking time. So we'll make sure we get all of that in. So we're going to start with Aviva, and if you have an open role, developer role in your company that you'd love to share for everyone, it would be great.
Actually, we have quite few. On top of that, we still have a couple of internship roles open, summer internships. So it's for full-time students, undergrad, master's, and PhD in the data science world. And again, all of them are at learnvest.com. There are quite few. Our engineering roles are always open. That's kind of an ongoing effort. And then on top of everything, so we now have engineering roles in both New York, Milwaukee, and Arizona.
Yeah, we actually have a number of open roles as well. We're a small company, but looking to grow by quite a bit by the end of the year. I'd say one of our biggest pain points right now is integrations, because the bloodline of our business is partnerships. So if you have specialties in integrations and APIs, come find me.
Yeah, I think specifically for the people here, we do have, right now we have a software engineer and ad tech role. It is a junior-ish type role, anywhere from entry level to about 3 or so years. It's just checking that out. It's mostly full stack, probably 60-40 front end to back end using React, Redux, a little bit of plain JavaScript, touch and Node, and building out some APIs in Python using Flask. So go to intersection.com, check out our careers section, and it's listed under the software engineer role.
So for the East Coast right now, we have roughly 30 software engineer roles, as well as university opportunities. A lot of big movement in cloud engineering and machine learning right now. The other thing I would say is if you're a travel nut like me and are willing to travel, we also have over 3,300 positions open for software developers around the globe.
And since Tyler covered our global infrastructure, I'll talk a little bit about New York. So we have 2 roles that will be likely be of interest for all of you: a cloud solution architect and a data solution architect, abbreviated DSA and a CSA. These are our architect roles. They work in partnership with our lead sales team. So they have clients that they're aligned to in partnership. That salesperson is responsible for sitting down with a customer, understanding what they want to solve in their business. What's their vision? What are their challenges? And then right there, side by side, that architect can go right to a whiteboard in that meeting with that customer and just start to design it out. So it's a partnership. They're both critical roles, and the architect roles for data and cloud are just tremendous opportunities for us here at Microsoft.
Awesome. Well, please join me in thanking all of our panelists.